Welcome to the Becoming Superhuman podcast, where we interview extraordinary people to bring you the skills and strategies to overcome the impossible. And now, here's your host, Jonathan Levy.
Before we dive into today's episode, I want to let you guys know about an opportunity to learn some of the most important skills in life, if not the most important skills. And those are the skills of learning and doing so rapidly, effectively, and easily. You see, guys, I'm putting on a completely free 60-minute webinar that you guys can check out, where I will be going into my absolute best memory tips, learning tips, and speed reading tips so that you can immediately begin applying them and accelerating your learning of anything and everything. All you need to do to claim your spot in this free webinar is visit jle.vi/webinar. We have showings at many different times throughout the days for every time zone, but you have to log in and claim your spot. So that's jle.vi/webinar. And I really look forward to seeing what you guys achieve. This episode is brought to you by Organifi. You guys, one of the only things that every nutritional expert that we've had on the show seems to actually agree on is that we all need to eat more vegetables, eat more greens, eat organic, cut out all the processed junk. Well, who has the time, right? Who has the time to go out, do the shopping, make the salads, make the juices, make the smoothies? And that's what I love so much about Organifi. Their product is an all-organic green juice. It has all of the nutrients that you need. It tastes absolutely amazing, and it's made by wonderful people who I consider to be personal friends. And as listeners of this show, you guys can actually save 20% on your first order. And all you have to do is go to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com and use the coupon code SUPERHUMAN at checkout. Greetings, Super Friends, and welcome to this week's episode, which is brought to you thanks to a review from Thatcher T1D of the United States of America, who says, "Great despite the quote-unquote cheese," end quote. 5 stars. It's a bit corny, especially the name. I didn't think I'd get into it, but I really like the content. More often than not, I find myself listening to episodes multiple times to make sure I've really absorbed everything. Well, I appreciate the review, Thatcher, despite the constructive criticism. It is a little bit of a cheesy show, so I will take it and say thank you. And if you guys haven't left a review with some constructive criticism, well, please go ahead. We can take it. We're big boys. We can take it. On to today's episode. You guys, today we are joined by the amazing Sunny Lenarduzzi, who, to be honest with you guys, I don't think I could have gotten this interview if we weren't already friends years and years before. Sunny has almost a decade of experience as an award-winning video, social media, and online business strategist. She's worked with tech startups to authors. You've probably seen her working with Hootsuite. You've seen her with Lewis Howes. You've seen her with Gary Vee. And you've seen her do amazing, incredible campaigns, such as one with Applebee's that hit 1 billion impressions in one freaking day. She's also the creator of YouTube for Bosses, and she teaches all kinds of amazing courses online. You've seen her speak at NATO's headquarters. You've seen all kinds of amazing stuff from her in Entrepreneur, Forbes, and the Huffington Post. And deep breath, you've seen her also on YouTube. You've seen her winning Best in Social Media in Western Canada, so on and so forth. Enough about the brag reel. Sunny is an amazing human being, an amazing entrepreneur. And the reason I wanted to do this episode was, well, first I wanted to catch up with Sunny, and I thought it would be interesting for you guys to hear the conversation. But also I wanted to get her to share her experience about something that I think a lot of people struggle with. As you guys know, I'm trying to spend less time on social media. I recently did an episode about how I'm trying to spend less time on my phone. And yet, I know people like Sunny who are able to not spend all their lives on their phone, but they're able to use social media tools and digital tools to their advantage to build strong and meaningful relationships with other people. So I wanted to ask Sunny, how the heck are you doing this? How are you building such a strong business, such a strong brand, and also such strong relationships with such amazing people without spending all your day on the freaking smartphone? So we talked about that. We talked a lot about business and how Sunny has grown $1 million business out of pretty much nothing. We talked about some of her hacks for productivity. We talked about how she overcame a massive stress breakdown and rose to become even greater and even more grounded and even more calm. And, well, we talk about all kinds of amazing stuff that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. If you guys do enjoy it, let me know with a comment or a review. I want to know if you guys are interested in these episodes, which aren't about nutrition or fitness, but are talking about a way that we can all do something better. So let me know what you guys think. Let me introduce you to my longtime super friend, Ms. Sunny Lenarduzzi. Ms. Sunny Lenarduzzi, I am so glad I finally got you on a phone call. You're the busiest woman I know. It's amazing. I think I have to do a podcast with you just to have a friendly catch up. How are you?
I know. I'm so good. And I'm so happy to talk to you. And I'm so sorry I've been the worst. It has been quite the year.
I've been pretty bad as well. And for people in the audience who don't know why Sunny and I know each other, we were in a mastermind that disbanded, but I think everyone in the mastermind went on and grew their businesses so much. And you, young lady, have been doing amazing stuff. I see you in pictures with Gary Vee. I see you launching new products. What have you been doing? Like, what are you doing and how do I do it?
Well, I mean, it's been a pretty interesting year. I've definitely changed and kind of blown up a lot of my business and altered a lot of things. But just like before I dive into that, I think it's also really important that people know that, yes, we met through the mastermind, but we originally met on a slide on a cruise ship.
That is true. On a cruise ship at Summit at Sea with, I believe, like Tony Hsieh was there working out with us. And you come up and you're like, "Hi, I'm Sunny D." And I was like, "There's no way that's your name." You're like,
"That's
no,
your real
really.
name.
That's my real name." And then we were pretty much super friends after that.
Exactly. It was an epic meeting. So how have I done it over the last year? So what we did...
And also, what do you do, I guess, for people who don't know?
What do I do? So what do I do is I teach entrepreneurs how to leverage YouTube to build their businesses and their brands. So I fell in love with YouTube kind of accidentally. I was a journalist, and then I started my first business in 2010, which was an online magazine. I leveraged social and YouTube at the time to build it completely organically, fell in love with the process, fell in love with the online space, fell in love with the fact that it wasn't traditional marketing and I could actually talk to people one-to-one and push the needle that way. So learning so much out of that experience, I started a consultancy, built that up, did that for about 4 years, grew it to a place where I was totally burnt out and had way too many clients, and they were all asking the same questions. And so instead of getting on another meeting or a phone call, I actually decided one day to just sit down and film a YouTube video explaining one of the questions they were asking me, which at the time was about live streaming. So that was in 2015. And I filmed the video, had no subscribers on my channel, posted the video, and the next thing I knew, I woke up the next day to about 2,000 views on the video. It was ranked #1 in Google and on YouTube, and I had 12 inquiries in my inbox from people wanting to work with me. So I was like, okay, this is definitely an aha moment. And then I continued to make content every single week moving forward. So in the last 2 years, we've grown the channel to over 130,000 subscribers completely organically, and we've grown it to 7 million views. And that's really changed the whole business. So because there was such a huge demand now of people all over the world wanting to work with me, it basically allowed us to create these digital products where we could impact people on a greater scale, which I know you know all about. And I think you were one of the first people who said to me, you should really get into courses. And so I created a digital product, and I've created several since, and we have turned the business from like a $50,000 a year consultancy to $1 million company in the last 2 and a bit years. So it's really exciting. I'm now also working with entrepreneurs who are at a higher level and doing more intimate and more high touch programs for YouTube, and then showing them how to scale their businesses using YouTube and not solely relying on Facebook advertising. So yeah, I love what I do. I'm borderline obsessed with it. And I'm obsessed with YouTube. I love YouTube, and I love creating amazing content that's actually helpful and impactful to people.
Amazing. And I want to ask, how much of your business comes, I feel like I know the answer here, but how much of your business actually comes from YouTube itself versus, the online courses and coaching?
So, I mean, YouTube funnels into a lot of our courses. So like I can say that within 5 months, when we first launched one of our courses, we did 6 figures in 5 months directly from YouTube. So that wasn't anything to do with paid advertising. And all of my speaking opportunities have come from YouTube. Within a month of posting videos back in 2015, I was asked to speak at NATO's headquarters because the head of NATO's social media found my video on YouTube when he was looking for how to use Twitter.
Jesus.
So the amount of opportunities that have come my way, I've been featured in Forbes because someone on YouTube found me. So everything's come from YouTube. And I always say it's changed my life and my business because it truly, truly has. And I know it sounds trivial, but it's the best thing I've ever done.
That's amazing. And so before we get into kind of the applicability of that for other people, I kind of want to ask, what are you doing now? I mean, I know you had one brand, you had another brand, you're always building new products. Like what right now are you teaching in your courses?
So right now we really have the product that we really focus on is called YouTube for Bosses. And it's a 4-hour crash course that teaches you how to rank on page 1 and rank number 1 on YouTube to increase your leads, subscribers, and views. And that's really my signature program. And then everything outside of that is just deeper levels of intimacy. So we have a mentorship program that's more of an accelerator where it's kind of like a mastermind with a bunch of other entrepreneurs to grow your YouTube channel and in turn grow your business. And then we also have this extremely high touch one-on-one program where I work with 7-figure entrepreneurs to figure out how to diversify their lead generation with YouTube.
Brilliant. Okay, so now the big question everyone's asking, they're like, this is a show on being superhuman. And while you are clearly a superhuman entrepreneur, I think people want to know, like, I would love to hear your tips because what I'm going through right now is I'm trying to minimize distraction and spend less time on social media. And at the same time, we all live distributed all over the world and we need social media to build relationships, not just with customers, but also with friends. So I want to ask you a bit about authentic communication. And what I love in your stuff is that you really are connected with your audience. You're really creating authentic communication. You're not broadcasting in the way that I think a lot of people are. So I want to ask an open-ended question, which is, how do you maintain such authenticity and how do you use social media to build real relationships with people?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, because that's probably the best compliment I could get. But I think it comes from honestly where I started from, which was building a business without a budget and really having to figure out how to build close-knit relationships with people so they do become your biggest brand ambassadors and they push the needle for you and spread the word. So I think because I started from that place, that's how I've always looked at it. And so I think for me, how I maintain authenticity and connection with my audience is that I listen to them a lot and I survey them a lot and I ask them questions. And I have a really great group called the Be Your Own Boss Mastermind group, which I started kind of on a whim because I knew how lonely it was to, work on your own. And I wanted to basically be able to talk to other bosses from around the world, and it turned into this movement. And so I really love Facebook groups for intimate engagement and connection. And it's been one of the best places for me to do some, research and recon on what I need to be doing in the business and what my customers want from me. I think that's the thing that I've learned is that I've never created something that hasn't been asked for. Even my one-on-one program, I didn't create it until a mentor of mine was like, I need to learn from you, but I'm not going to take a course. How can I work with you in a more intimate level? And I was like, okay, I'm going to create something around that. And then that's blown up. So it's really just tuning in. And also, gratitude is a huge part of it. Like, I'm so grateful for anyone who takes a second or a minute to watch any of my content or comment on any of my content or like any of it, because there is, like you said, enough distraction out there. So it's acknowledging people, seeing them and saying thank you, and randomly just reaching out sometimes to people who have been supporting me from day one to say like, hey, how's it going? How's life? How are your kids? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I have so many close-knit relationships with people in my community that I've never met in real life before. And those are the people that I really believe are the reason why I'm so successful at this point. And I always say this, but I do believe your tribe is your trust fund. And I think with the way that things are going with, paid advertising and Facebook ad costs rising, if you don't build an organic audience and a tribe and a community that loves you, I think it's kind of dangerous for your business in this day and age. So that's why I think it's so important. And as far as time management on it, which I know can be an issue, for me, I think at this point, it's really important for entrepreneurs to focus on one platform and really harvest that platform and then kind of use that to grow everything else. But I just spent a month and a half off of Instagram, didn't even have it on my phone, didn't look at it. Didn't want to, and really just focus on my content on YouTube because I don't want to be pulled by that platform on a daily basis. And I also, take it off my phone on the weekends, and I've taken all social apps off of my phone. So I'm not even tempted.
Wow. So that really surprises me because in my mind, you are the social media woman. And it's interesting that you also have to spend time away and get away in order to be more effective on the channels you choose. How much time would you say you spend in a week on social media?
I would do it on a daily basis. I say I spend about an hour a day max on social media, actually like engaging back and forth. Wow. And I just split it up throughout the day. I try to be really efficient. And actually a friend of mine, Amanda Bucci, she's a huge fitness influencer. And we were having this conversation the other day. And I said, how do you manage it? And she was like, I switched my mindset. I'm no longer a consumer on social media. I'm a creator. Yes. And the only reason that I'm on there is to create impactful content and to communicate with my audience. And I was like, ooh, that's a big aha moment right there. That makes huge. So much sense. Yeah.
I literally at this point only go into Facebook, and I've also taken it off my phone. I go in just to check on the Super Learners Facebook group. It's really the only way you'll get me on social media. And a couple friends and I have realized that once you take it off your phone, it kind of loses its impact, and you'll scroll through the notifications. And unless someone has actually messaged you, you're not a part of it. I think that's such a powerful point of like, you're there to share content, to add value to others, and not to just passively consume.
Exactly. Because that's where you literally, like, I've had mornings where I'll be on my phone for half an hour just looking at things. Like, what am I doing? Right. It's a rabbit hole.
What tools do you use? I just signed up for Contactually, which is run by a friend of mine, Tzvi, to kind of manage the relationships, as you said. I'm wondering what kind of tools you use to empower you to create these authentic relationships. Because if anyone's interacted with you on social media, as I said, it really feels like we're able to get your attention and you're able to manage all the comments and manage all the interactions.
I mean, in full transparency at this point, what I've done, and I think this has been probably one of the biggest changes I've made in the business in the last year, is I have a full-time content and community manager, and she really runs the communities and pings me when there's something that someone's tagged me in or that really needs my attention. And that's when I go in and I'm immediately drawn to it, as opposed to seeing everything that comes in, because we have an audience of, over 200 or 300,000 people now. So you can imagine that when I go into any social platform, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much to answer and so much to read right now. So it's just really making sure that there's almost like a vetting system. So I have someone in place for that now. And then I also have tools like Hootsuite. I love Hootsuite. I've preached about it from day one, where we manage our responses and our messages and also schedule things out. And then I was using Planoly to schedule all of my Instagram content a week or a month at a time. And now you can actually do that through Instagram if you have a business profile. So that's another big piece of it. But I think scheduling for me is a huge piece of how I manage everything. Like, I schedule everything in advance, and then I only need to be on to actually answer questions and communicate back with people.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Other tools and tips for really creating that intimacy? Anything we didn't cover that you'd like to share with folks?
I don't think there's really any tools that I didn't mention. I just think it's really honing in on the fact and understanding that without an audience, how sustainable is the business really? Yes, you have to have buyers and customers, but it's also important to have an audience of people who one day will buy from you because you've warmed them up enough through content and communication and building relationships that you have, like I said, you have a trust fund almost, where you're like, totally. I know I'm still going to have that income coming in.
Totally. I think that's super, super valuable. And just for people to see your approach, that despite the kind of disconnectivity of the media, you're actually caring about individual stories and individual requests. Mm-hmm. I think people see someone with your footprint on social media and they think there's no way this person's ever going to message. But just to understand that the people who are doing this well, and also the people who are teaching others to do this well, are really taking it as individual people, as just another way that I communicate, and not kind of writing people off like you would junk mail, but rather giving them the respect and time and attention to have a dedicated teammate go through it, or go through it yourself and kind of pay real attention to what's actually going on.
Yeah. And I think just one other note on that I think is really important, almost on the flip side of it, is that I have a lot of, friends and mentors and people around me that are always like, well, how are you so active and whatever else. But I think, and I fear that if I'm super active on social media, that I'm going to get a negative response or there's going to be trolls or whatever else. And yes, that's a thing. But what's really interesting is when you're actually connected to your community and you build those relationships, there's a huge level of accountability. And if there's one thing that the spammers and the trolls don't like, it's having to be accountable for what they say. So I always say, like, my community is shockingly positive because I am active and I do respond and I see them. So they are not as likely to say something that's like just blatantly mean or rude in my comment section as they would maybe somewhere else where there isn't that accountability factor.
I love that. That's a brilliant point. I'm going to ask you a chutzpah question, which I know you teach a whole course on this, but number one tip for people who want to get into YouTube, want to explore this whole space that you love so much, how do people crush it on YouTube on one foot?
Yeah. So my number one piece of advice, and I say this all the time, and it might sound a little strange, is that nobody cares about you on YouTube. And I think that's a huge mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make. And it sounds weird, but I'll explain. So basically what I find a lot of people doing is trying to emulate the Gary V's of the world and doing vlog style videos right off the bat. And they're like, nobody's watching my videos, nobody's paying attention. And the reality is, unless you're providing some sort of educational value in the beginning on YouTube, nobody does care because it's a search engine. It's not like it's like Facebook where there's a feed and you can push your content in front of people. On YouTube, if you're not making searchable content and you're not making content that's actually providing value to your target audience, you're not going to gain momentum. So really understanding that it's not about you and your life. People aren't invested yet on YouTube. You need to make them invest by giving them value first, which I think is rule number one of social media in general. So starting from a place of education, starting from a place of what can I teach my target audience and what would they find valuable, and then going from there.
I love that. And I love the way that you phrase it. I mean, always, as you know, I'm doing a lot in online course creation and helping people develop content. And that's a business that I'm focusing on launching fairly shortly. But cool. It is always about how do you create value. And I think the way that you phrase it, like, really nobody cares about you and what you're doing unless you're providing value. And I think it's an interesting side point that you mentioned, that it is a search platform. You really need to cater yourself in a way that people are going to find you. It's not good enough to create great content on YouTube.
Exactly.
Brilliant. I want to change gears halfway and ask you about entrepreneurship. I think it's incredible. We don't have enough female entrepreneurs in the world at all. And I want to ask you, I mean, you've done this amazing thing. You've built this amazing business. What are some of the things that you feel have really helped you as an entrepreneur, besides, of course, the Content Queens mastermind with, Bonnie, Brandon, and myself?
Outside of that, obviously, I think it's funny, like, that is a huge help and something that I always talk about with new entrepreneurs. I'm like, find mentors, find friends, find people who are in this space, because it's lonely, particularly when you're an online entrepreneur. And it's really easy to get in your own echo chamber of thinking that your ideas are the greatest thing ever. And you need feedback that's like real from other people. So I think for me, that's been something that I've been really focused on, probably not even fully intentionally, but it's just kind of naturally happened over the last 2 years. And it's been a game changer for me because I feel like I have so many people in my network and my space that I can go to and ask for advice and bounce ideas off of. And it's just so valuable. And I invested for the first time in a mentor about a year ago now. And it is, I swear, one of the reasons that I've grown so fast. He's been incredible to me. His name's Scott Oldford. So he's been awesome for the business. And yeah, I think mentorship, masterminds, and then I think also just like studying your craft. So I am obsessed with YouTube. Like I said, I study it every day. I am a huge nerd. I'm always looking at the newest and latest trends. So you really have to love what you're doing. And I know that sounds like such a cliche thing to say, but it's the truth. You have to be super invested in what you're doing to actually push through and be the best at it. And I think we're entering a time now where we've had, a couple of years of really anybody being able to enter the entrepreneurial space and say that they're an expert. But I think what I'm seeing now is this trend of like the true experts are rising to the top, and the ones that aren't the real deal are kind of falling by the wayside. And that's bound to happen. And I think it's a natural ebb and flow that will continue to happen. But I think that's why it's so important to every single day be studying your expertise.
Definitely. I think that's really, really brilliant. Superhuman hacks. What are you doing? I mean, you're a very, very busy woman. You're traveling a lot more than I am. What are you doing health-wise to take care of yourself? What are some of your superhuman kind of hacks, habits, routines, strategies that help you perform at your highest possible level?
Well, for sure, for me, I have non-negotiables that I have to do every day, and that is eating 3 healthy meals minimum. I recently became a vegetarian about a year ago now, and that has been a big game changer for me just in mental clarity and energy levels. And then I also am very focused on my sleep. So I have always been a big advocate for getting enough sleep, but I'm actually now at this point really focused on the quality of my sleep. So I started implementing this routine like a week ago, and I'm obsessed with it. And I've been telling everyone I know about it. And it comes from this book called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if you've heard of it.
We had Hal on the show.
Okay. I'm obsessed, and I'm about to have him on my show. Hopefully, I'm just in talks right now to have him on my show, but I'm obsessed with this routine. And so I've started doing it in the last week, and it is changing my life. So one of the things I've been struggling with is I actually used to work in morning TV. So I would be up at 2:55 in the morning every day. And I think from that experience, I almost started rebelling when I didn't have to wake up that early. So I would sleep in a little later, and I was still super productive. I was still doing my non-negotiables every day. I was still healthy and active, but I just didn't feel like I was quite as on top of things as I needed to be. So Pat Flynn, who's a friend of mine, recommended this book. I read it. I started implementing it in the last couple of days, and it is a game changer. I'm happily waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is very out of character for me. And I can feel myself like creeping earlier and earlier on a daily basis. So yeah, I just really love the concept of showing. So my idea of being your own boss and be your own boss is my mastermind group, and it's part of my brand. And my definition is showing up for yourself so you can show up for everything else personally and professionally. And I've always believed in that, especially in the morning, taking the time in the morning to not be on your phone right away, to not be pulled by other people, to not be reactive, and to just take care of yourself. But this routine in the book is taking that to a whole new level. So I'm spending the first half an hour to an hour of my day just focused on myself and bettering myself.
Brilliant. I need to try this whole Miracle Morning thing out. Everybody's been talking about it. We've had Hal on the show.
It's unbelievable.
How does it work with it? You know, if you have a romantic partner who doesn't want you to wake up at 6 in the morning,
Okay.
How do you play that one?
Great question. So funny enough, my boyfriend is actually struggling a little bit right now because I am getting up earlier than I normally would. And usually we'd wake up together and we'd have breakfast together and all that stuff. But what I'm doing is basically I get up at 6 and I keep my phone in a different part of my apartment. So it's not super loud in the room, and I have to get up and turn it off so it doesn't bother him too much. I have all of my like workout clothes and everything already set aside in the bathroom. So I'm ready to go. And then by the time I'm finished my whole routine in the morning, I come home, he's waking up, and we can still have breakfast together. So
that's smart.
The only thing that's a bit of a struggle is that I'm waking up at 6 and he's not. And I inevitably am going to wake him up a little bit when I do get out of bed. So
sure,
that's the only thing. But outside of that, it's
I'm
good.
Gonna try it, and I'm going to tell my girlfriend that you said I should do it. So,
okay, perfect. If she hates me, I'm sorry.
If you ever meet her. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Tell me, what's one thing, Sunny, that is a real major challenge for you, and how you are going to take it on, either personal or professional, now that you have this amazing Miracle Morning routine?
To be honest, this was one of my biggest challenges, was actually changing my morning routine. But I think, it's funny. Someone asked me yesterday, actually, it was in a yoga class. They're like, what are you facing that's a big challenge right now that you're kind of stressed over? And I don't feel like I'm facing any big challenges right now that I'm totally overwhelmed or stressed by, because I think it's the first time where I feel really, really supported by everyone in my life, both personally and professionally. We built the team from 2 to 7 last year. And it's like, this was another conversation I was having recently with my mentor. And I was like, it's funny. It's like I've turned off the option to be stressed and the option to be overwhelmed and the option to feel even challenged because I have so much proof from my past that I can do what I need to do. And so when I feel myself entering that really anxious mode or feeling really overwhelmed, I've actually like consciously decided to tell myself, you're choosing to be stressed right now, instead of choosing to be in a state of relaxation, in a state of flow. And of course, I'm not perfect. And of course, that doesn't work every time, but it has been a pretty big evolution for me in how I'm handling my workflow and my business on a daily basis for sure.
Wow. I really, really like that. I think it's so interesting that, we've had Buddhist monks on the show and we've had Wim Hof on the show and we've had social media gurus on the show. And I think it's so fascinating to me how a lot of these lessons about because essentially what you're talking about is cognitive framing, right? And this idea that we choose the way that we perceive things. I think that's really, really interesting, especially as you're growing a business. It's so easy to be like, busy is good, stressed is good. I must be amazing. I must be so important. So many people must want to work with me because I am so busy, and it's so validating to be busy. I think it's really important what you're saying.
And I talk about this a lot because I think it's been a real struggle for me. And I actually, I'll be totally honest about this. I had a full burnout in the summer and it was in August, and I actually ended up in the hospital because I had like a really severe anxiety attack. And it was the first time in my life that I've ever experienced that. And it was terrifying. And I realized what really was the cause of it for me was that I had been conditioned and patterned for almost 7 years to hustle. And I hate that word. I hate that it's become such a buzzword, but like that's what I did. And that's what all entrepreneurs have to do in the beginning. You are in a state of hustle until you break a certain point in your business and feel like you're finally gaining momentum. And for me, that was like a 7-year journey. And so all I knew to be successful was to hustle. So to change my mindset of not hustling and just working smart and delegating and trusting people around me and trusting my team was such a painful shift. And it was like pulling teeth for me. And I'm still working on it. But I realized how vital it was. And it was really shifting my brain to think in a different way and to not think busy is good and busy is what makes you successful. That's not what makes me successful. At this point, what makes me successful is having space and time to actually be the visionary in the business.
That is so important.
Yeah, and have some space and time to think of new ideas. And if you're burnt out all the time, you don't have that and you're going to plateau always. So yeah.
I'm really glad to hear you say that and come to the same place. And it shows that we got to rekindle the mastermind, man, because I'm going through the same thing, and I'm going through a period where I have set up in the business that we have so many wonderful people. I mean, even this episode, after I'm done with it, I won't touch it. It'll just come out. Thank you, Mina. Yeah. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Dimitrish. It's going to pass hands 5 different times. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going through is exactly that, is this. If you don't feel busy, you don't feel important, you don't feel motivated, you're not driven because there's no stress. There's no eustress left, and there's no distress left. And the way that I'm consoling myself is exactly what you said. And I read about it in Tools of Titans as well, where it's like you really have to give yourself that space of just taking a couple of days off a week if you need to, and playing the piano. And in those moments, you become inspired. So I'm constantly reminding myself that I will be better and more effective, even though right now it feels like I'm dicking around and reading my Kindle in the park instead of answering emails. And I think also you said another really good thing about trust, because at the end of the day, if you're micromanaging and stuff like that, it all comes down to trust. Do you trust your people to handle, and do you trust the systems that you've put in their hands to handle everything in your absence?
Well, and I think that, like, if we're really going to get into this, that all comes from ego. Like my ego was so big in the sense that I was like, nobody can do it like me. Nobody's going to do it right. Nobody can, tackle this in the same way that I can. And it's taking your ego out of it and being like, no, everyone is fully capable as long as I'm setting up the systems and processes for them to learn from so that they're fully empowered to do the best job that they can. And I physically cannot be doing all of this. So I need to really check myself before I rock myself.
I had a friend early on in my business experience, in my last business, who told me, he's like, you know what, John, maybe you're right. Maybe no one is ever going to be as effective on the phone as selling as you, because people are going to buy more when they realize the CEO of the company is on the phone with them. But someone will do it 90% as well as you. And you will do something that no one else can do, which is direct the business, guide the business. So like, are you ready to give up on that potential? By the way, I think the people who do our customer service chats do a better job than me. They're way more patient than me today.
Yeah.
But, are you ready to potentially give up that 10% so that you can grow your business? And that's really the moment when my business grew is, you know what? I can't be on the phone. I just can't.
Yes. And I think also in that sense too, and that's something that I'm just starting to like kind of outsource the sales process, is the people who are only going to buy from you because you are on the phone as the CEO are more invested into you than they are actually doing the work that you are going to teach. That's a big lesson that I've learned, is like, I don't actually want people to buy from me because they're so invested in me as a brand. I want them to buy from me because they're actually going to do the work and get results.
100%. 100%. Some books. I know, in our mastermind, we love to share books and thought leaders and stuff like that. What are some books that have impacted your life? We mentioned one, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. That's a freebie.
Yes, that's a freebie. So many. Oh my gosh. 4 Agreements I always talk about. Hands down, one of my favorite books. I read it all the time. The Desire Map and the Firestarter Sessions by Danielle Laporte. Amazing. I read the Firestarter Sessions when I was first starting my business, and it's about planning goals that are actually associated to how you want to feel as opposed to what you think you want. Love it. And then I've also read recently The One Thing. Really, really beautiful book.
I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah. So a lot of entrepreneurs I talk to, and I'm like, what's the one book that changed your business? It's usually that book.
Wow.
And so it's a really good one. And then the other one that I really love and I'm reading right now is Braving the Wilderness by, oh my gosh, Brene Brown.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Amazing. And it's not about business or anything. It's about what's going on in the world right now and how we can show up in a better way and be our best selves. And it's unreal. It's so good.
Brilliant. Sunny, I know we're running up on time here. We could chat forever, and I think we should.
We could.
On a monthly
I won't be the worst anymore.
Awesome. You guys heard it on the air. Sunny's going to be not the worst, but I think it's totally fair. I didn't realize, by the way, that you had a breakdown, so I'm kind of a jerk for shaming you at being too busy.
Oh my gosh, don't. No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, we will make a commitment to talk more, but before I let you go, I want to ask for some homework that people can do maybe to build a more authentic relationship or improve their relationships online. Or otherwise, I think trying the Miracle Morning is a great piece of homework as well. We'll throw that one in.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would say definitely pick up the Miracle Morning. I should be an affiliate for this because I'm telling everyone and their dog to go get this book.
Amazon affiliates.
But that's definitely one of them. And the other thing I would say is, as far as building authentic relationships with your audience online, the one simple piece of homework I would say is post something today that asks a question on any of your social platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and whoever responds to that post, kind of keep a list of them in your phone or create a list if it's on Twitter of those people that's private, and remember to check in with them a week from now and privately message them and just say, how are you doing? How's life? How can I support you better? And you would be shocked at how much that will change your business.
Brilliant. Are you using any kind of special tool? I know I already scraped you for tools, but are you using any kind of tool to manage those lists or remind you to follow up with those people after a week?
I just use Asana. I love Asana. So I just put a reminder for myself in there for that. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm trying to get Contactually to do this for me, but just getting it set up is, we want to go through 1,000 contacts and bucket them properly.
Right.
And so that's been really, really tough. Awesome. I want to thank you very much for your time and your energy. But first, I want to ask you, if people take away just one message from this episode and they carry it with them for the rest of their lives, what would you hope for that episode message to be?
I think I would want them to take away that, for me, the whole idea of being your own boss is something that really rings true for me, not just in the entrepreneur space, but it was really a shift for me in taking ownership of every area of my life. So I think if the listeners can take anything away from this, it's that in order to actually be your own boss and be the CEO of your life, you need to show up for yourself first before you show up for anything else. So take care of yourself.
Brilliant. That is a brilliant note to end on. Sunny Lenarduzzi, you're amazing. I want to say that I'm one of your biggest fans, but I'm also one of your first fans.
It's true.
I was there first. Where can people learn more about you and jump on the bandwagon, check out your products, hear you speak, so on?
So sunnylenarduzzi.com. And we also just launched our podcast. So we have the YouTube channel, which is just Sunny Lenarduzzi. And then on iTunes or any other podcast platform, you can actually find it at The Sunny Show. So very excited about that.
Awesome. Congratulations. And of course, if I can be a resource for you on podcasting or anything else, I would jump at the opportunity to get you on the phone more often.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Back at you, my friend. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, Super Friends, that is all we have for you today. But I hope you guys really enjoyed the show, and I hope you learned a ton of actionable information, tips, advice that will help you go out there and overcome the impossible. If you've enjoyed the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, or drop us a quick little note on the Twitter machine at GoSuperhuman. Also, if you have any ideas for anyone out there who you would love to see on the show, we always love to hear your recommendations. You can submit on our website, or you can just drop us an email and let us know. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in to the Becoming Superhuman podcast. For more great skills and strategies, or for links to any of the resources mentioned in this episode, visit www.becomingasuperhuman.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.